Hello and welcome to this Amazon Web Services Fireside Chat. My name is Scott Coey and I'm the Global Account Manager for HSBC. Amazon Web Services and HSBC have been collaborating to deliver best-in-class banking services since 2017, starting in the UK with open banking and most recently delivering the HSBC PayMe service here in Hong Kong and Zing, the global FX wallet, which recently launched in the UK with further global expansion planned for the next year. Over the past 7 years, the relationship has grown from strength to strength. AWS has invested in new regions to provide HSBC with the same secure, reliable cloud services that they're used to around the world, including Hong Kong at the start of our partnership, Switzerland last year, and just last month, the announcement of further significant investment in the Singapore region. All of this further cements AWS and HSBC's long-term strategic partnership. However, the relationship is broader than just technology. HSBC is one of Amazon's global banking partners, providing all levels of investment banking services around the world and collaborating to deliver innovative ways to service the needs of our mutual customers. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Mr. David Grimme, the Chief Operating Officer for HSBC Asia. David is a seasoned leader with a wealth of experience in financial services and a deep understanding of the Asian market. In his role, David has ensured that HSBC's regional strategy continues to deliver on behalf of their customers. This obviously is a shared vision to Amazon as we put the customer at the center of everything we do. Welcome, David. It's great to see you again. It's always good to spend some time with you when we come out to Asia, so we appreciate some more time today. Tell us a little about your history, your background, your career with HSBC. Obviously, it's been 30 plus years. We've talked about where you've traveled and historically in your relationship and your time in the different areas and your connection with the people and the customers. So it'd be good to hear a little bit more about your journey to where we've got to today.
Sure. Well, look, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for HSBC in Asia. I've been the COO for the retail bank globally, and I've run operations for the bank. I've been all over the place. I started in the US, you might be able to tell from my accent, but some time in the US, but I also worked in the UK twice, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Hong Kong twice over 30 plus years. Part of the bank that I work in, the COO space or digital business services space, we cover tech, ops, corporate real estate, procurement, the control environments, kind of all the run the bank activities. I like to say that we enable the commercial solutions of the bank. We're highly connected to the customer outcomes. My recent travels, which we were talking about before we started, last month in 4 different markets, a lot of time with commercial clients in those markets to understand how what we do translates into the products and features and ultimately the way they use the bank. So I think it's a really important part of the bank and I'm proud to have been part of it for a long time.
A lot of the conversations you and I had together around the digital strategy and HSBC's journey within that, being Asia specific and that it'd be good to understand and align some of the priorities with what you have to do with Asia and the push-pull of a global prioritization of a bank like HSBC.
So we are globally driven. We prioritize things generally along our global business lines, but there's always a bit of productive stress between market, last mile flexibility, if you will, and global solutioning. But we are a global bank, and this is a really important dimension. Maybe we're the only whole universal bank left. Mm-hmm. We moved or pivoted to Asia even more so before the start of COVID. And actually, that's been significant. We've continued to invest in China and other places while other organizations maybe were pulling back. That strategy around international corridors is really critical to us. We think that is our right to win space. Within that, the wealth products, transaction banking products are paramount. That's the direction of travel for us. The solutioning that we look for in partnership, especially on the cloud platforms, is our ability to propagate those products more globally. It's a key feature. Beneath that, I think the strategic imperatives are the things that we need to work on. Speed of execution enabled by a step change in our infrastructure. We are an old bank, pushing 160 years shortly. We have systems that date back to the 70s in some cases. So we know we need to improve. We've transitioned. We have a very significant, as you well know, strategy to migrate to cloud. And so that helps us with that step change in speed of execution. We also need to innovate. These partnerships, we do not work alone. We used to develop everything ourselves. We don't anymore. Everything we do is sort of in a partnership context. That keeps us current, that keeps us innovative and productive. Lastly, I would say, we know we have more data than many organizations, petabytes and petabytes of data. We don't commercialize that. Our ability to do that is greatly influenced outside of our own systems. We have good analytical skills and talent, but we need tools and partnerships that enable that on platforms like AWS.
You touched on there the journey of data and acceleration and moving to the cloud. Obviously, part of that is your digital presence within the region and how you're going to continue to expand that. What are some of the key initiatives that are going on that you talk about with our partnerships that are enabling that transformation, sort of a evolution to revolution type, as we've seen over the last half decade or so?
Yeah, look, I think we would understand that, and we've talked about some of this already, the speed of what we need to do in a fast-paced environment. Understanding our customers' needs is really a critical bit of that. Whilst we have a lot of activity in that space, again, the power of the tools that are available, especially on your platform, enables us to get to hyper-personalization in retail banking, for example, so that offers are continuously updated. The ability for a customer to manifest their journey in their own specific way is really, really critical. Yeah. So that's really important to us. I think if I look at some things that we've done in partnership, the open banking initiative that we've had been highly supported by AWS in terms of our ability to deliver that. That's enabled customers to integrate and interact with us in a much more productive way. That's one item. I mentioned data. It goes without saying that's a specific, very important part of what we do. And actually, probably our initial journey with AWS was in analytics. Yeah. And so that continues on. And I can look back over, again, in my last job 7 or 8 years ago, I watched that journey evolve to something pretty productive and state of the art today. Yeah.
David, you're talking about all the changes and the technology and everything there. I think one part that's very strong between AWS and HSBC is we're customer-centric, right? And the customer is the center of everything. So every development and change in a product or service or how that service is delivered, the customer still needs to sit in the middle of that. Cloud technology is playing that significant part, as we talked about earlier in the future of banking. How are you and how's HSBC leveraging this technology to deliver to those customers across the markets and needs and create opportunities for those customers?
So I think in two ways. The first way I think is the exploitation of the data in a very different way. I can think back to we can do things on the cloud we could never ever do ourselves because of the scale and the power of the processing. So the amount of scenarios we can run, again, I mentioned hyper-personalization. This is a really key thing to, I think, the satisfaction in the journey. And then the speed to market on all this, the iterations to get there is just much faster. Those are two things I think that are really critical.
How is some of these partnerships and relationships being used to help transform the HSBC digital journey?
Yeah. I'll give you a few examples with AWS, okay? Let me make an opening statement. I think, first of all, again, as I said, we're partnered extensively now in most of the things that we do. We have found that gives us an innovative lift, for sure, a speed to market lift, a constant ability to benchmark vis-a-vis these partnerships and how we are doing as an organization. Again, if I think about AWS in particular, the ability to migrate our stack is really a critical point, number one. Second example I would give you is, again, the ability to distribute our wealth product in a different way. So there's a product commercial support aspect because the underlying technology enables that, propagation of our mobile platform, for example. The third item I would say more future looking. You guys are doing work on quantum key distribution. There's two elements of that, two examples. One is around the actual future look on how we improve cybersecurity, do transaction monitoring kinds of activities. And then the second, there's actually programs of work around foreign exchange, foreign exchange delivery, and how we improve the technology around that for security and other things. So it's actually some real tangible examples. Yeah. And then the last example I would give you with AWS is we just did this AXA acquisition a year or two back in Singapore. Our ability to scale that transaction on the platform was instrumental in completing that transaction effectively. So 4 or 5 examples there of how a partnership was a better outcome than in isolation trying to do it ourselves.
And that evolution, like we talk about within wealth and personal banking, so many different parts. You talk about wealth, we talk about transaction banking. You mentioned the insurance acquisition as well. The ability to be flexible on the different products and services and what needs to be delivered for those products and services for the customer is key because HSBC are always evolving. There's always changes, and that also comes back to the regional requirements too, whether it's around governance or regulation in the region that's required, because it's, as we know, it's not all same global. So looking ahead, how How do you see some of these emerging technologies? You talked about quantum. We've all talked about Gen AI. It's the flavor and the changes. How do you see some of these helping HSBC with the common theme, the customer experience going forward?
Well, again, clearly underpinning all that is our service journey, our product propositions. But if I go in order, I think the Gen AI thing is the flavor of the day, but it isn't new, right? AI has been around for a long time. For more than a decade, we've had machine learning models and credit and fraud analytics, but clearly it's moving to a new stage. So AI, we think is a superpower. It's a transitional item. So AI is number one. I think the second thing, central bank digital currencies. We've been really pretty on the forefront of that. We're actually in pilot in a few markets. We did last year, in partnership with the HKMA and Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, we did an Hong Kong dollar pilot. We'll go into phase 2 of that this year. Over the course of the next decade, those will become more relevant. I think that just in a more innovative way, I suppose the quantum computing topic comes up. We've had investments in that space, both in our ventures area, but also one of our group executives sponsors this program of work, and we are partnered with some labs and others on this activity. Obviously, the obvious constant item that comes up is cyber defense, but beyond that, our ability to enhance credit models, these kinds of things is important. So I think those are 3 emerging or have emerged sorts of categories, one a little more future-looking, that I think we are absolutely playing in the space and want to be, in bed with the partners who are going to help us get there.
I guess as we get just changing tack quickly, with the experience and the background, the 30 plus years, your journey, this last decade or so that's just accelerated everything from cloud through to, as we could, talk about the Gen AI, what advice would you offer to other organizations, other partners that you work with about building this driven innovation culture, future fit workforce? What are you doing with your people?
Yeah, so the innovation culture I think is probably the most important thing, actually. Again, so first of all, banking isn't typically run by engineers.
Yeah,
we're not Amazon, and so I think there's an additional hurdle. Our technical teams are already in that space. We hire similar kinds of people, but much of the organization isn't that, but understands that it has to be. So everyone can relate to it, but moving people's mindset to that is slightly different. I think the things that we think about are, and maybe it's more specific to non-tech industry, but the fear of failure, conquering that, making it acceptable to try new things, employ new technologies. And then once that's embedded a bit, to encourage empowerment to take those into solutioning and recognizing not everything will land. Funding that and resourcing that is all part of that. Here we treat it in a multifaceted way. We also have what I would call programmatic things that run. So right now we're running a data quest kind of program. It involves the entire region. Teams or individuals contribute their ideas. It goes through iterative practice, through a competition. We'll approve quite a number of them, and they'll have to take those to fruition with funding from the bank.
And we're actually being part of the judging in the next process.
That's great, and that will inevitably, I'm sure, as you understand, involve your platform in many cases. So that's really a good thing. But that innovative spirit is really important in the tech stack. We're not close to some of our competitors yet, but we've had more patents in the last year than we've had in the last 10. So encouraging even our developers to think in terms of creating IP is an important aspect. The last bit I think is in partnership with academia. We started an arrangement with a couple of the universities, most notably the HKUST University here, with a digital executive development program, which we use their professorial staff and external speakers to kind of, over the course of around cohort number 3, probably about 150 people that have been through this now, from the top down, to try and move their thinking, from an academic sort of standpoint as well. We're also investing in labs in the space as well, both in academic sense and in Shenzhen and other places in the bank. So I think it's a multifaceted thing. What's really, really critical, and if I talk about my team or even my bosses here, it's tone from the top. and really making sure that this enters our everyday vocabulary. But I don't know that there's more science behind it than that for us.
And that last piece is that the AI Ambassador Program you talk about. Is that another?
That's correct. Yeah. And when actually, we do a number of things in partnership with Amazon. The Ambassador Program is one. You ran 700 teams through one of your programs here in the last year.
Yep.
And then we had another 50 people go through, 50 people go through another one of your programs.
Principles working
backwards program. Yeah. So that was exciting to see. So, this is a key part of the learning journey is embedding our partnership success into how we work too. Because inevitably, again, we're using the platforms. It makes good sense.
I think as we wrap up, one of the most enjoyable parts of about working with HSBC, and you've mentioned academia or is the want, the desire, and the ability to learn and to ask for learning from others, not just looking within yourself. And our culture of working backwards, there's been multiple projects between AWS and HSBC that have started with both our executives or both our teams getting together and talking about how you do things and how we do things and how we can do things better. So again, always enjoy our time together. Greatly appreciated. And thank you for your continued support and partnership with AWS. Look forward to long may it continue.
Well, look, AWS has been one of our core partners the last, it's been 5+ years. Yeah. And what I can say, as I said in the course of the conversation, we've had step change in our performance as a result of it. I think our ability to understand our customers' data and deliver solutions. I mean, this is about delivery platforms. Whether it's inside the bank or outside the bank has been greatly enhanced. So we appreciate all the inner working. We appreciate the attention and look forward to another 10 years together.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.